I never thought I'd spend a Saturday morning on my own land, facing down two sheriff's deputies while a woman I'd never met screamed that I was trespassing on my own field, her clipboard waving like a war banner. If I'd been holding coffee, it would have spilled across the dirt. Instead, Nathan Carter, stood dumbfounded, torn between disbelief and laughter at the absurdity. The deputies looked baffled. Lillian Hayes, HOA president with a power trip larger than the Colorado sky, was red-faced, ranting about community bylaws. I was one heartbeat from losing it at the madness. This wasn't just any field. It was my family's heart, bought in 1950 by my grandfather with his last war savings. Raised on stories of brutal winters, scorching summers, and harvests that swung between miracles and debt, I'd watched my father tend it with sweat and soul. When he passed it to me, his only rule was, never let it go. I'd prepared for banks or developers, not a suburban tyrant with a vendetta. Lillian had declared war, and she was about to learn I fought to keep what's mine. It started quietly. Months earlier, Cedar Hollow Estates sprang up 2 miles away, a shiny subdivision of McMansions called an estate, despite the nearest hollow being a dry gully last wet in the Eisenhower era. I ignored the new homes, assuming the residents wanted rural peace like me. Wrong. Dead wrong. Lillian, the HOA's self-appointed queen, lived for control, dictating mailbox colors and approved shrubs. When her neighbors grew fed up, she turned her sights beyond, locking onto my field. The first shot was a letter in my weathered mailbox, official-looking but reeking of nonsense. The Cedar Hollow HOA claimed oversight over adjacent lands, demanding compliance within 30 days or I'd consent to their rule. I laughed, crumpled it, and tossed it into my wood stove, thinking that was the end. It wasn't. A week later, a harsher letter arrived, threatening fines. I showed it to my neighbor Henry Walsh at the diner. He nearly choked on his coffee, roaring, "She thinks she can steal your field with a letter?" Everyone knew it was mine, deeded, taxed, undisputed. But Lillian didn't do undisputed. She had a vision, and my field was her prize. Strange things followed. Surveyor flags appeared along my fence. Cars crept by, snapping photos. I thought it was county road work, but inquiries turned up nothing. Then came HOA signs bolted to my posts, declaring my land Cedar Hollow Community Green Space with fines for trespassers. Amusement turned to fury. I called the county, secured my 1950 deed, and consulted my cousin Michael Lane, a lawyer with a pit bull's tenacity. He assured me no HOA could claim private land without a sale or eminent domain, both requiring years of legal battles. I planned to outlast her, but Lillian had other ideas. That Saturday, as I fed my chickens, engines roared. 2 deputy cruisers kicked up dust, trailed by Lillian's polished SUV. She leapt out, pointing and shrieking that I was trespassing on HOA land, demanding my arrest. The deputies exchanged confused looks. I handed over my deed, notarized, backed by decades of taxes. Unfazed, Lillian thrust forward HOA bylaws and a hand-drawn map, her subdivision's borders absurdly sprawling across my field and half the valley. The deputies hid grins. After 20 minutes, they apologized, urged Lillian to leave before she faced trouble, and drove off. She screamed, "This isn't over," and sped away, dust swirling like a storm. I knew she meant it. Tension hung over the field like fog. The next dawn, a new sign on my gate declared it Cedar Hollow Community Property with fines. I tore it down, hands shaking, and threw it in my truck. This wasn't a mistake, it was an invasion. That afternoon, a landscaping crew arrived, unloading mowers by my fence. A nervous kid mumbled about HOA community field improvements. I filmed, warning of trespassing. They fled, tires screeching. Word spread fast. By dinner, the diner buzzed with Lillian's audacity. Henry slapped his knee. "Bylaws over your deed? She's lost it." Neighbors brought pies, rallying behind me. I met Michael over coffee. He warned that Lillian's persistence could muddy public perception, even if legally baseless. We needed a trap. I strung yellow caution tape along the field's road-facing edge, posted signs screaming, "Federal Agricultural Restoration Project," "No entry," and hid motion sensor trail cameras in the trees. They'd ping my phone if Lillian stepped foot on my land. 3 days later, at sunrise, my phone buzzed. The feed showed Lillian, clipboard in hand, leading landscapers across my field, planting flags and digging holes in my barley. Rage flared, but I stayed calm, saving the footage. I called Sheriff Tom Riley, a high school friend who loved justice and fly fishing. He chuckled, promising action. An hour later, his cruiser rolled in, lights off. We walked to the field, letting Lillian spot us. She froze, then waved her clipboard, ranting about HOA authority. Tom, smirking, reviewed her bylaws and crayon map, then my deed, taxes, and footage. He declared her a trespasser, cuffed her, and read her rights as she wailed about lawsuits. The landscapers bolted, abandoning tools. Lillian hissed, "This isn't over," as Tom led her away. I tipped my hat, savoring the win. Lillian's arrest only stoked her fire. A week later, a county survey truck parked by my field. The driver, a young subcontractor, said the HOA ordered a boundary survey for their community land. His map, hand-drawn, swallowed my field and neighbors' lots. I sent him packing and called Tom, who issued a cease and desist. Lillian was sneakier now, but I was ready. I fortified the field, more cameras, bolder signs, and a fake federal project facade, thanks to county allies. Quiet days followed, but I sensed her plotting. One evening, engines rumbled. Through binoculars, I saw Lillian leading HOA board members, flashlights and clipboards in hand, toward my caution tape. She ripped it down, ordering stakes and picnic tables for a community park. I hit record and called Tom. His cruiser arrived silently, catching them mid-act. Lillian shrieked about beautification, but Tom pointed to my cameras and deed, offering her a choice, leave or face charges. Her allies fled. She stomped to her SUV, slamming the door. Another battle won, but the war continued. Pineville rallied. Neighbors hosted barn dances. The diner hummed with defiance. Henry's wife baked pies for Team Nathan. I met Michael, planning a counterstrike. Lillian's next move came after a festival, a county inspection for my unsafe barn. Inspectors found it sturdier than modern builds, apologizing for the anonymous tip, Lillian's parting shot before retreating. In court, her lawyer's community rights plea crumbled against my deed, taxes, and footage. The judge, sharp as a blade, affirmed my ownership, ordering Lillian to pay damages, court costs, and a public apology or face jail. She slumped, defeated, her empire in ruins. Outside, neighbors cheered, grilling on the courthouse lawn, kids waving free field signs. The Field Day Festival became an annual triumph, drawing crowds with tractor races and pie contests. Lillian's HOA ousted her. She sold her house and vanished, a pariah. Her settlement funded a barn community center, hosting school field trips where kids planted corn and learned soil secrets. The state named my field a historic agricultural site, granting funds and a plaque. At the second festival, I thanked the crowd. Community grows from shared fights. Weddings bloomed under the South Oak. Veterans raised flags. Markets thrived. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, an elderly visitor, shared tearful memories of childhood hay bales and first kisses by that oak, thanking me for saving it. The field wasn't just mine, it was Pineville's, a legacy of defiance proving Lillian's crayon dreams couldn't erase history. Years later, the field was a vibrant hub. Kids sowed pumpkins, artists painted its golden expanse, and Saturday markets drew families countywide. Lillian faded into a cautionary tale, her name whispered with smirks. One dusk, by the oak, I felt my grandfather's promise fulfilled, not just land saved, but a community reborn. The absurd fight had knit us tighter, rooting Pineville in honor, memory, and the grit to stand firm against tyranny. The field stood, a living testament, its story closed, but its legacy eternal.